When Martha and Roy first appeared in Super Smash Bros. Melee, I had assumed that Fire Emblem was an action game because of the side B attacks weaving into combos. I was quite surprised when I got Fire Emblem as we had it in the US as a kid, and it was a strategy RPG, but I had a blast playing it nonetheless. Fire Emblem would go on to be one of my favorite franchises in all of gaming. Fast forward to E3 2017. Fire Emblem Warriors was announced, and I was genuinely curious, if nothing else. I knew the Warriors games had a tendency to be stuffed to the rafters with content, but my experience with the franchise was limited to seeing one of my hallmates in college playing Hyrule Warriors. I remember it looking really grindy and laughably easy due to the sheer number of content and non-aggressive AI respectively. Regardless, I was reminded of my initial belief that Fire Emblem was an action game from over a decade before, and I decided that was enough reason to give the game a try. I ended up getting the game a couple weeks after release and had the chance to play it obsessively for days, and there was a lot to unpack. There were so many things that felt like such polite nods to the details of the series, and yet there were so many things that seemed like such huge oversights comparatively. Overall, I had a positive experience with the game, so I remember it as my favorite mixed bag. One of the most interesting things about Fire Emblem Warriors is how it feels like it fits the setting of the Fire Emblem games better than the mainline titles. In most Fire Emblem games, you hear a lot about so-and-so's army, and you think to yourself, oh, you mean my team of beautiful anime boys and girls like the 2 Cavaliers I have, and the handful of Pegasus Knights, that 1 Archer, and so on and so forth. It seems a little weird, like it's an army composed of less than 100 colorful teenagers. In Fire Emblem Warriors, however, there are the colorful anime teenagers you're used to seeing, but also generic foot soldiers. It kind of clicked for me when I first started playing, like, oh, this is the army I'm always hearing about. It feels like it fits more with the theming of Fire Emblem games. They act with commanders, try to control forts, fight other generic units, and sometimes fight demigod-like commanders on the other side. And these demigod-like commanders are your key players, the ones that you see fighting alone in the mainline games. They stand out as incredibly powerful soldiers, capable of mowing down countless generic soldiers with ease, and it's incredible. In the mainline games, you initiate battles with the press of a button and watch scenarios play out. There's usually only a couple of combat maneuvers each class has, depending on the game you're playing. But since the GBA era, we've had the chance to see some more complex maneuvers outside the normal gameplay, like Chrom in certain cutscenes in Awakening, or Marth in Super Smash Bros. And in Warriors, you get to not only see these attacks in greater detail, but you directly control when they happen. That cool spinning attack from Awakening, that's just Chrom's strong 4 combo. It feels incredible to be able to bust out some of these iconic moves whenever you want to take out innumerable enemies. It adds a level of control and empowering feeling that isn't present in the mainline games. It's incredible hacking and slashing through enemies, but to classify this game as a hack and slash would surely be selling it short. At a low level, the game appears to be a hack and slash. It's a common criticism of any Warriors game. You're faced with many enemies that don't seem to pose any real threat, and all you have to do is chop them down. Except, it's not quite that simple. In Fire Emblem Warriors, there are a few things besides having all of your units or key characters die that can make you fail a mission. If your base is captured, you lose. If a key character dies, you lose. If your allied commander dies, you lose. And if you're not careful, those things will happen to you, and pretty quickly on a few select maps. It's then you realize that Fire Emblem Warriors is actually a strategy game all about deciding on how to distribute your demigod murder machines to ensure not only that none of the fail conditions are met, but also that you are able to complete your objective in the allotted time to get that sweet, sweet S rank. How perfect is this? A game where you can get real-time control over some of your favorite characters that is also a strategy game at a high level. What better fusion of gameplay is there for a Fire Emblem spin-off?